Let's be honest with each other for a moment, just you and me. Let's talk about the one fear that sits in the back of all of our minds, the one we push down during the day with work and errands and the noise of the world, but the one that sometimes creeps out in the dead of night, in the silence of our own thoughts. The fear of death, the fear of that final moment, the fear of the unknown after the last heartbeat. What does it feel like? Is it painful? Is it just blackness? Nothingness? The thought of it is enough to make your breath catch in your throat. We see it in movies, we read about it in books, but the reality of our own mortality is a cold, heavy stone that we all carry in our pocket. We spend our entire lives running from it, distracting ourselves from it, pretending it's not there. We build our careers, raise our families, accumulate possessions, all in a desperate attempt to build a wall high enough to block the view of that final cliff. Philosophers from the beginning of time have wrestled with this. Jean-Paul Sartre called it the nothingness, a terrifying void that threatens to swallow all meaning. Modern psychologists talk about death anxiety as the root of so many of our other neuroses. It's the engine behind our frantic need to feel important, to leave a mark, to not be forgotten. We are terrified of being erased. And that fear is real, it is valid. To deny it is to deny a fundamental part of being human. But what if I told you that this fear, as real and as powerful as it feels, is based on a misunderstanding, a colossal, cosmic misunderstanding? What if I told you that our Christian faith doesn't just offer a vague hope of going to a better place, but provides a detailed, astonishing, and profoundly comforting roadmap of what actually happens in the moments, hours, and days after our earthly life ends? What if death isn't a cliff we fall off of, but a bridge we walk across? What if it's not a door slamming shut, but a door swinging open into a reality more real, more vibrant, and more alive than anything we have ever known? The secret to conquering this fear isn't to pretend death doesn't exist. The secret is to understand what death truly is. And a humble Polish nun, a saint named Faustina Kowalska, was given a glimpse behind this final curtain. God, in his infinite mercy, showed her things that have the power to dismantle our fear, brick by brick, until nothing is left but peace. And the very first thing she learned, the first revolutionary truth, is this: when you die, you don't cease to be. In fact, you become more yourself than you have ever been. Your soul, the real you, doesn't just vanish. It steps out of a broken-down, worn-out vehicle, your body, and for the first time, it is fully, intensely, and breathtakingly alive and aware. Imagine it. All your life, you've experienced the world through 5 limited senses, like watching a beautiful movie on an old, fuzzy television set. At death, you're not just watching the movie anymore. You are suddenly in it, in full, glorious, infinite resolution color, with our senses you never knew you had. This is what the great near-death experience researchers, like Dr. Raymond Moody, have documented for decades. Countless people from all walks of life who have been clinically dead and come back all report the same thing: a heightened state of awareness, a feeling of being more alive than ever before, and an overwhelming sense of peace. But Saint Faustina's visions go even deeper. She tells us that the soul, in these first moments, often remains close. It doesn't get whisked away to some distant galaxy. It stays, and it becomes a silent, invisible guest at its own funeral. Now, that might sound spooky, it might sound like a ghost story, but it is the furthest thing from it. It is an act of God's profound mercy. Why? Because that soul is in a sacred waiting room, a moment suspended between time and eternity. And in that waiting room, it's given a final opportunity to receive love, to receive mercy, to receive our help. Think about the last funeral you went to: the quiet church, the hushed whispers, the scent of lilies and old wood, the somber music. We, the living, see it from one perspective. But the soul of the person in that casket is experiencing it from a completely different reality. The soul sees its own body, that familiar face, those familiar hands that once held children, that once worked so hard, that once embraced a spouse, now lying still and lifeless. There is no pain in this, only a strange sense of detachment, like looking at an old photograph or a set of clothes you no longer wear. The soul hears the conversations. It recognizes every voice. The heartbroken sob of a daughter in the front pew. The deep, weary sigh of a son who now feels the weight of the world on his shoulders. The confused, innocent question of a grandchild asking, "Is Grandpa sleeping?" And with a perfect, piercing clarity that is a gift of this new state of being, the soul knows the heart of every single person in that room. It can feel like a tangible force who is there out of genuine love and sorrow, their heart heavy with loss but also lifted in prayer. And it can feel, with a heartbreaking ache, who is just there out of obligation, who is looking at their watch, wondering when the service will be over, who is already thinking about the luncheon afterwards, or the errands they need to run, or the argument they had with their spouse that morning. All the masks we wear in life, the polite smiles, the appropriate words, the carefully constructed images, they are all transparent to the soul. It sees straight through the pretense. It knows who is truly praying and who is just moving their lips. This isn't a judgment. The soul is in no position to judge. It is a simple, stark, and sometimes painful awareness of the truth. In one of her visions, a soul spoke to Saint Faustina, and its words are a chilling warning to all of us. The soul lamented, "They praised me at my funeral. They spoke of my accomplishments and told stories about my life. But not one person offered a true prayer for my soul. I would have traded all their eulogies, every single word of admiration, for one single heartfelt Hail Mary." Can you imagine that spiritual thirst? To be surrounded by people who claim to love you, yet to be dying of thirst for one drop of the spiritual water of prayer? This is the reality for more souls than we can possibly imagine. And this is where our fear of death begins to transform into a mission of love. Because in that sacred space, every single thing we do or fail to do matters eternally. The battle for that soul is not over. In fact, in some ways, it has just entered its most critical phase. To us, sitting in the pews, a funeral might seem quiet, solemn, and peaceful. But in the unseen spiritual realm that is all around us, it is a battlefield. Saint Faustina wrote of seeing beautiful, powerful angels standing guard around the casket, but she also saw demons, dark and sinister, lurking in the shadows like wolves circling a vulnerable sheep. What are they doing there? Their one and only goal is to promote distraction and despair. They are the ones who whisper in our ears, "This is all so sad, what's the point?" They are the ones who stir up old family resentments, causing whispered arguments in the back of the church. They are the ones who pull our minds toward our anxieties, the unpaid bills, the stressful job, the chaotic state of the world. They will do anything to stop us from doing the one thing that has the power to change everything: praying. The Apostle Paul wasn't speaking in metaphors when he wrote to the Ephesians, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." This is a real struggle, and at a funeral you are a soldier on the front lines, whether you realize it or not. Every time someone in that church chooses distraction over prayer, pulling out their phone to scroll through social media, letting their mind wander to their to-do list, engaging in idle gossip, it is a victory for the darkness. It weakens the angelic guard. It leaves the waiting soul more isolated, more vulnerable. But every time even one person makes a conscious choice to fight back, something incredible happens. When you close your eyes, shut out the noise, and from the bottom of your heart, you lift up a prayer for that soul. A brilliant light cuts through the spiritual darkness. It is a sword drawn in the battle. It is a powerful blow against the forces of evil. The angels are strengthened, the soul is comforted, and hope floods the room. You may feel utterly powerless in your daily life. You may feel like a cog in a machine, struggling to keep your head above water as the cost of living goes up and your paycheck stays the same. You may feel invisible and unimportant in the grand scheme of things. But let me tell you, friend, at a funeral, you are a spiritual giant. You have more power in your little finger, through a single heartfelt prayer, than a king has with his entire army. You can literally alter the course of someone's eternity. Your prayer, your focused, intentional prayer, is a soothing balm. But there is one thing, one singular act of love, that is not just a balm, but a powerful medicine that brings deliverance. And that is the Holy Mass. Saint Faustina wrote in her diary, "A single Mass offered for a soul brings more relief and more benefit than any other human gesture or prayer." Why? What is the secret to the Mass's power? It's this: the Mass is not our prayer. It is the perfect prayer of Jesus Christ himself, offered to the Father. It is his sacrifice on the cross at Calvary, made present again in time and space, right there on the altar of your local parish church. When a priest says the words of consecration, that is not just a symbol. The veil between heaven and earth is torn, and the saving grace of Jesus' death and resurrection floods into our world. That grace is the most powerful force in the universe. It is what created the stars. It is what holds the atoms together. And it is what can purify a soul and open the gates of heaven. The great theologian St. Thomas Aquinas explained that the Mass is the perfect prayer because it represents the one perfect sacrifice that paid the debt for all sin. When you have a Mass offered for a loved one, you are not just asking God to be nice to them. You are taking the infinite merits of Jesus' sacrifice and applying it directly to their soul. It is like having an infinite bank account and writing a check to pay off all their debts. Padre Pio, the great modern saint who bore the wounds of Christ and could often see souls from purgatory, he knew this reality intimately. He used to say, "More souls of the dead climb out of purgatory from the foot of the altar than from anywhere else." Imagine that. A ladder to heaven, and its base is right there at the altar during every single Mass. We spent so much money on funerals, the beautiful casket, the expensive flowers, the catered lunch. These things are good. They are signs of our love, and they comfort us, the living. But for the soul of the departed, they are like beautiful decorations on the outside of a prison cell. A single Mass, which might cost you $10, is the key that can unlock the door. Some souls, the saints tell us, wait for a very long time, not for us to praise them, not for us to build monuments to them. They are waiting, thirsty and longing, for one Mass, for a priest, a chalice, and the words of consecration, and you have the power to give that to them. You can call your parish tomorrow. You can give the greatest gift it is possible for one human being to give another. This is where the fear of death really begins to crumble, because we realize death is not a solitary journey into the void. It is a family affair. We are all connected in what the Church calls the communion of saints. The saints in heaven are cheering for us. We on earth are fighting for the souls being purified, and they, in turn, will one day be able to pray for us. It is a beautiful, unbreakable chain of love. But what about the moment of death itself? That final, terrifying moment? What if we are alone? What if we are in pain? What if we are afraid? Here we come to the most beautiful secret of all, the ultimate expression of God's tender mercy. Saint Faustina wrote this incredible promise in her diary, a promise that should be tattooed on all of our hearts. At the hour of death, the Blessed Virgin Mary comes to every soul that still holds even a spark of openness to God. Read that again. She comes to every soul, not just the saints, not just the perfectly pious, to every soul that has even a tiny, flickering ember of hope left. She comes. And she does not come as a judge. She comes as a mother, the perfect mother, coming to the bedside of her child in their final hour of need. You know that prayer we say so often, maybe without even thinking about the words? Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. That is not just a pious wish. It is a binding contract of love. If you have asked her to be there, she will be there. She cannot refuse the request of her child. Even if a soul has lived a hard life, a life full of mistakes and regrets, even if they have strayed far from the path, in that final moment, Mary comes. She stands between the soul and the forces of darkness. She deflects the accusations of the enemy. She wraps the soul in her mantle of grace, and she points them toward the one thing that matters, the infinite, bottomless ocean of her Son's mercy. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the deepest reality of our faith. God knows our weakness. He knows our fear. And so he sends his own mother to hold our hand as we make the journey home. With her by our side, what is there to fear? The darkness must flee from her light. Despair cannot exist in her presence. She is the ultimate antidote to the fear of death. So, what is this judgment we face after death? We have this image of God as a stern judge on a high throne with a giant book, tallying up all our good deeds and bad deeds. This image is a human projection, and it is almost entirely wrong. The judgment is not God condemning us. The judgment is us, seeing ourselves for the first time in the pure, unfiltered light of His love. Imagine you've lived your whole life in a dimly lit room. You think you look okay. Your clothes seem clean enough. But then someone throws open the curtains on a brilliant, sunny day. Suddenly you see every speck of dust, every stain, every wrinkle that you never noticed before. The light didn't put the stains there. It just revealed what was already present. That light is the love of God. It is a light of pure mercy. And when we see ourselves in that light, two things happen. First, we see all of our sin, our selfishness, our pride, our missed opportunities to love. And this causes a deep, purifying pain. Not the pain of punishment, but the pain of regret. The pain of a lover who realizes they have wounded the one they love most. It's the sorrow of Saint Peter after he denied Christ, a sorrow that burns but also cleanses. But the second thing that happens is that we see, for the first time, the infinite, unconditional, passionate love that God has for us. We see that He loved us even in our darkest moments. We see that His mercy was always there, waiting for us, longing for us. And this realization brings a joy so intense, so overwhelming, that it eclipses all the pain. The judgment is a moment of truth, a moment of clarity. And for the soul that has even a shred of love for God, it is the beginning of healing. Purgatory is not a cosmic torture chamber. It is a spiritual hospital. It is the recovery room of the soul, where the divine physician, Jesus Christ, lovingly heals the wounds of sin, burns away the cancer of selfishness, and makes us beautiful and whole, ready to enter the perfect joy of heaven. And our prayers, our masses, our small sacrifices, they are the medicine we can send to our loved ones in that hospital. They are the soothing words of encouragement, the cool cloth on a fevered brow. They speed the healing process and hasten the day of their final homecoming. The great writer and Christian thinker C.S. Lewis described it beautifully. He said that those in purgatory would not leave it for heaven even if they could, until they were ready. Because to stand in the full presence of God's perfect goodness, while still having the stain of selfishness upon you, would be its own kind of agony. They want to be purified. They long for it. And they are filled with gratitude for every prayer we offer that helps them along the way. So let's bring this all together. Let's look our fear of death straight in the eye and see how these truths dismantle it. Are you afraid of ceasing to exist? The truth is, you will be more alive and aware than ever before. Are you afraid of dying alone? The truth is, the Mother of God herself will come to be by your side, to hold your hand and lead you home. Are you afraid of a harsh and unforgiving judgment? The truth is, you will be judged by love itself, by a mercy that is wider and deeper than all of your sin combined. Are you afraid of the pain of purification? The truth is, it is the healing pain of a loving surgeon, And we, the living, have the power to send medicine and comfort to ease the process. Are you afraid of being forgotten? The truth is, you will be welcomed into the communion of saints, a family of love that will never forget you, and you will finally be able to see and feel the love and prayers of those you left behind. Death has lost its sting. The grave has lost its victory. These are not just nice phrases from the Bible. They are the statement of a conquered reality. Jesus Christ, by his death and resurrection, has walked through the valley of the shadow of death and come out the other side, and he has left the door wide open for us to follow. The Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, built his entire school of psychology on one idea: that man's deepest drive is the search for meaning. He saw men endure unimaginable suffering in the concentration camps, and he noticed that the ones who survived were often not the physically strongest, but the ones who had a meaning, a purpose to live for. Our faith gives us the ultimate meaning, not just for our life, but for our suffering and for our death. Every small act of love, every prayer, every mass, every patient endurance of a headache or a frustrating traffic jam when offered to God becomes a part of this grand cosmic story of salvation. Nothing is wasted. You are not a random collection of atoms. You are a beloved child of God, an eternal soul with an immortal destiny, and you have a heroic role to play in the salvation of others. So what do we do with all this? It's not enough to just know these things. We must live them. We must become apostles of mercy for the living and the dead. What can you do right now, today? It is so beautifully simple. First, and most powerfully, as we've said, offer a mass. Call your parish, don't put it off. Offer it for your parents, your spouse, a friend, or do that incredibly merciful act of offering it for the most forgotten soul. Second, make the rosary a part of your life. It is the prayer that Mary loves. Each Hail Mary is like a beautiful rose you hand to her, and she delivers it, with your love, to the souls in need. Third, when you suffer, and we all suffer, don't waste it. That ache in your back, the sting of an unkind word from your boss, the deep worry you feel for your children, unite it to the cross of Jesus. Say a simple prayer.